Hello and welcome to News Central TV. My name is Mazino Appeal. The top stories this hour. Striking doctors challenge FCT Minister Wike, Senate President Akpabio to use local hospitals, and Nigeria Labour Congress threatens nationwide telecoms boycott over 50% tariff hike. Junta-led allies Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger to launch common passport in coming days. The details coming up shortly. Welcome. Now let's begin by telling you that striking resident doctors in the Federal Capital Territory have called on FCT Minister Nyesom Wike and Senate President Godswill Akpabio to utilize government hospitals in Abuja to experience the challenges faced by public health workers and patients. The doctors began a 3-day warning strike on Wednesday over unpaid salaries, allowances and other grievances following the expiration of a 3-week ultimatum issued earlier. President of the Association of Resident Doctors in the FCT, George Ebong, criticized Wike for neglecting the state of healthcare facilities and workers' welfare in Abuja. He noted that while Wike was focused on fixing roads, many health institutions in the nation's capital remain in a deplorable state. Earlier, public affairs analyst Jide Ojo shared his thoughts on this.
You know what the implication of even shutting down public hospital for one day is very grave. Patients will have died. Many will have had to compulsorily take their patients to private hospitals where they will pay huge sums of money. That means access to affordable Medicare will be denied in the next 72 hours while this strike lasts. And I'm really surprised because for those of us living in Abuja, we have seen the yeoman's job that Minister Nyesom Wike is doing in the area of infrastructure, particularly road infrastructure. I wonder why he's just indifferent to the plight of Nigerian resident doctors who have no water, no light, our whole salaries, backlog of 1 to 6 months salary. The state of healthcare services in Abuja and FCT in general has deteriorated to the extent that they can even call upon the minister and the president of Senate and even the president to use public hospital and see how bad things have been.
And now politics. A former spokesperson of the New Nigeria People's Party, Musa Nuhu Yankaba, has said that the former Kano State Governor, Rabiu Kwankwaso, and the incumbent Governor, Abba Yusuf, do not belong to the authentic NNPP. Yankaba asserted that the faction using the fruit logo represents the original NNPP. He disclosed that Kwankwaso recently led a group within the party to change its logo to a book symbol, a move he described as illegitimate. He also referred to a ruling by an Abia State Court on November 1st, 2024, which recognizes Boniface's faction as the legitimate leadership of the NNPP. And now to react to this, we are joined by the National Publicity Secretary of NNPP, Ladipo Johnson. You're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, sir. So let's start by asking your thoughts on the comments by your party's former spokesperson that former Kano State Governor Rabiu Kwankwaso and the incumbent Governor Abba Yusuf do not belong to the authentic NNPP. Your take?
Well, unfortunately, it would seem that the gentleman is living in dreamland. The party, the first thing is that people, members of the public, the press, can go to the INEC portal, if you do not want to go to INEC, and find out the logo of the New Nigeria People's Party, the chairman, the secretary, and some of the officers, the address of the headquarters of the party. So there's no argument there. They have remained recalcitrant, they are being obtuse, they In fact, I honestly believe that they are working for members of the opposition just to try to destabilize the NNPP. They referred to in your intro, you referred to an Abia State ruling. That ruling was given on a day where the court was purportedly meant to be on strike by the junior judicial service staff. Now, we have read the ruling. It runs contrary to an existing judgment of Honorable Justice Wike of the Federal High Court, Abuja. And it is clear from what they presented before the court in a corner of Abia State, not even the main city, what they went to present before him. They didn't tell the judge that they already had a judgment that had thrown them out that said they were not members of the party. So you see, INEC has ignored these things because INEC know what is going on. They were there when all the NEC meetings and conventions took place. They have all the minutes. So there is no problem. And recently, just last week, there was another injunction by High Court in the FCT restraining them from using the name NNPP or from parading themselves or holding congresses or conventions. So this is the situation. But they go to the press and they say all sorts. But I say all publicity is good. If it were not for them saying this, you wouldn't be talking to me tonight.
Oh, that's one way to look at it.
Keep telling.
One way to
We'll keep telling the position of things.
Is it safe to say now, however, that there are factions within the NNPP?
No, I always say no to that. You know why? The reason is if you check the dictionary, the faction is a smaller part or a part of one big thing. They are not members. They are not. They say Kwankwaso has been expelled, the governor has been expelled. Fine, thanks for expelling him. There is no party in Nigeria at the present moment called NNPP that has a logo of a basket of fruits. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
So they're not within the party. They're outside of the party. When the suspensions happened, they failed to do what they should have done. The Constitution is clear. They didn't do that. Some went to court and they were thrown out because the Constitution says go and finish the internal procedures in your party to get redress. And then, unfortunately, they were expelled later. So when you look at all these things, it's just simple. So they're outside of the fence, throwing stones and saying all sorts. All you need to do is to look at the last few off-cycle elections, and you will see that it has been the red and white education logo. That is the new NNPP logo.
So, Mr. Johnson,
so April 2024.
So does the NNPP plan to take any specific action or steps to address the fallout from the statements about Kwankwaso and Abba? Are there plans for any official statements or actions?
We don't need to do anything except for the fact that there's a nuisance value that they have, or they constitute a nuisance. And that is why the recent case was filed, and we have an interim injunction there, and they are expected to turn up, I believe, on the 27th is the return date by the High Court of Abuja. When they return on the 27th, they will argue the motion for interlocutory injunction. If they don't, we will move our motion, and if the ex parte has been granted, I'm sure, if the judge continues to look at it thoroughly, the interlocutory will be granted. And we will go on to finish the case. If they don't turn up, they're meant to turn up. As for the farce that they played in Abia, we have gone and we filed papers to set it aside because it's a judgment, the sort of judgment that could be set aside. They went and it was given par incuriam. That means all the facts were not before the judge. There was a mistake. So we go to Abia, but there's still a strike on in Abia to set it aside. Now, ordinarily, we would have, even though we know that the Abia judgment was gotten par incuriam, we would have followed it, but it runs contrary to a subsisting judgment of the Federal High Court Abuja, Honorable Justice Wite, which I said.
Okay,
and they haven't, I think they filed an appeal. They haven't finished, they haven't followed the process. You understand? Then
Yes,
they went to institute another one.
Barrister
in
Johnson.
Some corner of Abia.
Barrister Ladipo Johnson, well, would like to draw the curtain here on this conversation, but thank you very much for being here with us on the news this evening to give us your expert opinion and, of course, representing your party. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Moving on to more news now, as residents of Bukuma, in Degema local government area of Rivers State, continue to desert their homeland following an explosion that resulted in a fire in OML 18. The question many are asking is just how soon will respite come their way? The townspeople are citing grave health concerns as the pollution spreads from the creek to neighboring Kalabari communities, disrupting fishing and farming activities in the area. Thus, to shed more light on this, we're joined now from Port Harcourt by the Chief Press Secretary to the Chairman of the Degema Local Government Area, Gloria Harry. Gloria Harry, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Good. Now, the fire is still burning as at now, but at the grassroots level, what has the local government and the community leadership down there helped? How have they helped the situation since the fire broke out?
Well, thanks once again for having me. The chairman, Honorable Dr. Agri Monmahari, set up a committee immediately the issue broke. And they went there on a fact-finding mission, and the people involved, that's the stakeholders, the community heads, and the surveillance people, including officials from the security agency, were all invited to a meeting. And just yesterday, we went to the community to see things for ourselves. The chairman, Honorable Harry, led a delegation. We first went to see the Royal Highness, and they told us what their concerns were, because most houses were burnt down, as you've shown in your video. Houses were burnt, the aquatic life, everything is destroyed within that environment. So their water supply is also very bad. And as a result of that, the chairman has already started arrangements to provide portable drinking water for them, because as we speak, you can't drink water from that place. When we even visited the site, the whole place was vibrating because you can feel the heat, you can see the fire burning, all the leaves, trees were all burnt, even the ones standing had residues from the inferno. So it's a really bad situation. They're inhaling all kinds of carbons in the air. So they are also going to send items to them, like nose masks and the rest of them. The chairman, Honorable Harry, has already assured them, and as at now, modalities are already in place. So the stakeholders from that community, Bukuma community, are in close contact with the chairman. And if not now, I think even today, some of them saw him, and relief materials have started going to those places.
Okay then.
So
Ms. Harry,
soon they should get it.
Ms. Harry, so the NNPCL has blamed vandals as being responsible for the fire. That's like shifting.
Correct.
Yeah, so what do you think?
It's not correct, because the spokesman, Pastor Alex Fubara, told us yesterday when we went there that the oil wells, they have about 13 oil wells in that community. And from what he told us, he said there's no maintenance of such oil wells. So this oil well, actually the wellhead actually blew as a result of wear and tear, not because they were vandalized, no. So he said there's need for NNPCL to immediately come assess the oil wells within that community and maintain them, because maybe we could wake up one morning and find other wellheads also blowing up. So the people are actually afraid for their safety, because they've said NNPCL has neglected this oil well. So we don't know how true it is. So it's left for NNPCL to come out to their own side of the story. But as for vandalism, no, wasn't what happened.
So what has been the real extent of conversation to put out the fire now? We know there's meant to be security around these installations, including Tantita. How have you been in touch?
Tantita, they were on ground yesterday when we went. And we also saw people on top barges and top boats trying to put out the fire with chemicals. So on their part, I don't know who is doing that, but we went yesterday with NEMA, and the officials from that agency accompanied the chairman on that visit. So we met the Tantita people on ground, and we also met some people trying to put out the fire. So that's the situation.
So what's the real chance of the fire being put out? How far gone have they gone in trying to put it out?
Well, from what we gather, that's the committee set up by the chairman. When they went, for what they told us, they couldn't even get close to where the fire was, the wellhead was. So, but for us to get there yesterday, we saw that the inferno was actually dying off gradually, but it's not completely out. It's still vibrating, and everything around there, everything is gone. Houses, everything.
Oh, Ms. Gloria Harry, we want to say thank you very much for giving us your time this evening to join us here on the news. Thank you very much. We're going to break now, and when we get back, police kill kidnappers of retired AIG's wife and free victim. When we get back, join us then. Welcome back. Now, the United Kingdom's Minister of State for Defence in the House of Lords has announced increased UK support for Nigeria's counter-terrorism efforts, including advanced training, provision of modern equipment, and intelligence sharing. The minister met with the leadership of the Nigerian Joint Task Force Northeast Operation Head in Kai, the military operation tasked with combating insurgency in the region. Now, News Central's Umaru Kirawa reports.
Maiduguri, the capital of Borno State in northeast Nigeria, is reclaiming its title as the home of peace. However, the use of improvised explosive devices by terrorists remains a significant challenge to resettling rural communities.
The insurgency in the northeast is on the downward trend, and it is a work in progress. We'll continue to do our best to ensure that we achieve our mandate of restoring peace and in the northeast region, and to ensure that socioeconomic activities thrive. That the troops have been doing, and will continue to do that strongly to ensure we achieve our mandate.
The UK minister's visit aims to strengthen long-standing bilateral ties and enhance support for Nigeria's efforts against insurgency.
Our focus is on training. Our focus is on trying to work with more instructors, Nigerian personnel who become instructors themselves, who can then go and work in the country. We want to also ensure that we do as much as we can, as we have done with the gifting of money, but also the expertise that we've made available with respect to tackling IEDs. And let's remember that they're indiscriminate. Not only could they affect the military, but also some of the impacts on the civilians, which, again, none of us would want. So, as I say, there's a very strong relationship between our militaries, and it's something we wish to continue. And that's why our Prime Minister was very keen for me, as a Defence Minister, to come out here and talk to the General.
British Military Training Assistant Team that have been rendering assistance to the Nigerian military in terms of provision of training and other inter-nation training and supports that we have. So their presence here today also reinforces that aspect of the mutual relationship between both countries.
The Nigerian army says the battle to ending insecurity in most parts of the country is continuing and that strengthened collaboration is critical in this cause to reduce the threats and other insecurity across the country to the barest minimum. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
The Nigerian police force says that more than 300 kidnapped victims have been rescued this year, while 100 suspects have been arrested. The police, during a parade of suspects in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, says that it arrested 100 suspects for alleged murder, including several others for armed robbery and rape since the beginning of the year. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, has more on this.
Among the items displayed are 61 AK-47 rifles, 4 single-barrel rifles, several rounds of ammunition of various calibers, stamps, assorted drugs, and various forged documents associated with 13 suspects. According to the police, these individuals were arrested for crimes ranging from fraud, armed robbery, criminal conspiracy, and impersonation.
The duo were arrested for the offense of corporate fraud of 300 million naira only. Efforts to recover the stolen funds from the suspects proved futile as investigation reveals that most of the funds had been diverted to their personal accounts and were used for expensive gambling.
Also arrested is a 4-member gang alleged to be involved in armed robbery, primarily operating in Lagos and Ogun states. Additionally, one Yewu Suleiman, whose gang leader is currently at large and is being accused of kidnapping and armed robbery, including terrorizing the Zaria-Kano highway, was also paraded.
The suspect confessed to being part of a notorious armed robbery gang, known for mostly operating in several communities in Lagos and Ogun states. They further confessed that they majorly steal motorcycles owned by farmers.
The police said that it also arrested Mohammed Kabir, a resident of the Federal Capital Territory in Abuja, and 2 others for impersonation and criminal conspiracy, and another suspect accused of forgery.
So where are their uniforms? Okay. The suspects specialize in buying goods, mostly medical equipment and phones, using fake alerts.
This latest round of arrests and recoveries bring the total number of arrested suspects to 179 for armed robbery, 100 for kidnapping, 152 for murder, 34 for illegal possession of firearms, 77 for rape, and 110 suspected courtists. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Police operators in Ogun State have killed the kidnappers of Olashade Odumosu, the wife of retired Assistant Inspector General of Police Hakeem Odumosu, rescuing her and recovering the ransom used as bait. Police spokesperson Olumuyiwa Adejobi disclosed this in a statement posted on X on Thursday, saying the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, was satisfied with the outcome of the rescue mission. Odumosu was abducted last week at the entrance of her residence in Arepo Owode local government area of Ogun State. Her abductors demanded a 40 million naira ransom. The kidnappers intercepted Mrs. Odumosu's vehicle and took her through a swampy area to an unknown location. The police spokesperson neither gave details of the location where Mrs. Odumosu was rescued, nor did they tell the amount of the ransom recovered. And the Nigeria Police Force has decorated Jonathan Towuru, a former Assistant Inspector General of Police for Zone 6, Calabar, as a member of the force management team to represent the South-South region of the country. This decoration follows his recent appointment as Deputy Inspector General of Police by the Police Service Commission, an elevation from his previous position as AIG Zone 6, Calabar. While performing the decoration, the Inspector General of Police commended Towuru for his dedication to service and encouraged him to continue to represent the police in a positive light.
The appointment of this excellent officer who has proved everywhere he has served to be a reliable officer, committed to the values of honesty, integrity, courage, and steadfast commitment to justice. These are the values that form the cornerstone of the Nigerian police force. Once again, I congratulate you, dear Jonathan Tuwul.
Now, the Court of Appeal in Akure, Ondo State has upheld the death sentence of prominent hotelier Ramon Adedoyin, who was found guilty of murdering Timothy Adegoke, a former master's student at Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. Now, the court has reserved its ruling on 29 October 2024, but on Thursday affirmed the earlier judgment by the Osun State High Court, which sentenced Adedoyin to death. In its summary, the appellate court stated that the judgment of the High Court of Osun State stands. Adedoyin's appeal is dismissed in part. The Court of Appeal held that Adedoyin was properly convicted and sentenced to death. Minister of the Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, has directed the Nigeria Immigration Service to immediately deploy new printers to the passport offices in the Nigerian consulate in Atlanta and New York, United States of America. The minister's directive came days after a petition by a group of Nigerians in the diaspora. The petitioners had appealed to the minister to act after detailing challenges being faced by Nigerians in need of consular services in the two cities. In response, the minister acknowledged receipt of the petition while announcing his directive to the NIS. The Nigeria Labour Congress has urged Nigerians to prepare for a nationwide boycott of telecommunications services following the federal government's approval of a 50% tariff increase. NLC President Joe Ajaero condemned the hike, describing it as a grave injustice amidst economic hardship, soaring inflation, and declining purchasing power. He emphasized the strain on workers, saying the average telecoms expenditure could rise to 15% of the minimum wage. Telecoms companies argue that the increase is essential to sustain the industry and improve service delivery. Meanwhile, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission has urged telecoms providers to prioritize improving service quality. The NLC is demanding an immediate reversal of the tariff hike, warning of mass action to safeguard workers' welfare. Now, since the start of this second term of the 2024-25 academic session in Abia State, more children in Umuahia are staying in school during school hours. Now, this appears to be driven by a recent government policy enforced by a task force targeting children found roaming the streets. News Central's Chinwe Ogele visited schools and parts of the capital to observe the situation.
It's the second week of the new school term in Abia State, and many children are fully engaged in their schools, enjoying a structured learning environment.
Look, the disengagement of the thermostat is not based on the fluctuation of the current.
As a word of encouragement, those who were here on the fourth day, the school gave them 60 leaves exercise books.
Immediately we resumed, more than 50 learners came on that first day.
The Abia State government is committed to removing all school-age children from the streets by ensuring they are enrolled in public schools. To reinforce this policy, the government has announced the formation of a task force to apprehend children seen hawking or roaming during school hours.
The Abia State Ministry of Education, BASIC, has fully commenced with the enforcement of the out-of-school children policy initiative with the appointment of education marshals.
A visit to schools in Umuahia shows both teachers and pupils are eager to kick off the term with renewed enthusiasm for teaching and learning. While free education has been a cornerstone of the government's initiative, stakeholders emphasize the need to create a more conducive learning environment to further encourage enrollment and participation.
I've been thinking on what to do, because as soon as rain comes now, I won't have any place to stay. And there are not enough classes for me to go in and manage, because the classes are very few. It won't contain the children, talk less of me using any of the classes as my office.
School administrators express optimism that the task force might find fewer children on the streets given the visible increase in attendance.
We have more children in the school than we have roaming in the streets. For now, I don't think children roam the streets any longer.
They want to mop up all the out-of-school students. So many of them are coming back to school. So the population is definitely increasing.
However, a closer look at some parts of the city tells a different story, as a handful of school-aged children continue to flout the government's directive, remaining on the streets. In Omahia for News Central, I am Chinwe Ugeli.
Now, the Network for the Actualization of Social Growth and Viable Development, a public procurement advocacy group, has criticized the decision to name public institutions after a sitting president. On Tuesday, the federal government approved the establishment of a federal polytechnic in Abuja to be named after President Bola Tinubu. In a statement on Wednesday, NEVGAD's head of office, Akingunola Omoni, described the move as extreme sycophancy, unethical, and a questionable practice. Omoni argued that involving a sitting president in matters that bestow significant personal benefits while still in active service is fundamentally wrong. He added that such actions violate the Code of Conduct for public officers and urged appointees to uphold morality and professionalism. Nigeria's housing crisis is worsening, with millions of citizens facing a severe shortage of affordable homes. This has forced many to live in overcrowded slums and informal settlements, exacerbating poverty and inequality. Our News Central's Bettina Nweli reports.
Home to over 24 million people, faces a significant housing crisis. This shortage has led to overcrowded informal settlements where residents often lack basic amenities. Two major factors contributing to this crisis are insecurity and climate change. Conflict and environmental disasters have displaced numerous Nigerians, driving them into already congested urban areas in search of shelter.
As long as people cannot afford to buy homes, you would always have people creating these kind of places under the bridge, in the swamp, any place that they can lay their head to get to go to work in the city. So it's the only solution to avoid shanty is to provide affordable homes for people. The federal government should take a holistic approach and look at the issues. They should look at the issues of migration because of insecurity, because of climate change, because of economy. All these things should be taken into consideration.
Recent climate data identifies Lagos as one of Africa's cities most vulnerable to flooding. Annual losses from climate-related damage in Lagos are projected to reach billions of dollars by 2050 if urgent measures are not taken.
So you have countries that have a strong comparative advantage in green energy. African countries, for instance. You know, 60% of the solar capability of the world is in Africa, and yet only 2% of the investment. What if we strongly encouraged production of certain goods and services there, where you could use clean energy or critical minerals? When we process, they have both the critical minerals and the capacity for clean green energy. Yeah. What if we did that and then they exported this to other parts of the world so they didn't need to have these emissions, you know, that make the world so much warmer?
Lagos faces a dual challenge, addressing the immediate housing deficit while preparing for the long-term impact of climate change. Experts advocate solutions such as green building practices, climate-resilient urban planning, and improved drainage systems to mitigate human and economic losses. In Lagos, for News Central, I am Bettina Nweli.
Our Minister of Environment, Balarabe Lawal, has urged lawmakers to champion the cause of promoting better plastic waste management at the grassroots level through proper waste recycling. Lawal, who was represented by the permanent secretary of the ministry during the donation of a reverse vending machine to the National Assembly, says that staff of the Assembly will be rewarded for returning plastic bottles and containers for recycling. In response to the gesture, the chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Environment pledged the commitment of lawmakers to collaborate with relevant agencies and organizations to promote initiatives bordering on proper plastic waste disposal.
As a representative of Nigerians, it's an avenue for us, one, to give the machine a publicity, and also to be a pace setter as a Federal Minister of Environment, as a pace setter, that this thing is doable. The advantages of this machine are enormous. One, it can create jobs. It's also for economic factor. It can empower our constituents and members. So as a National Assembly, you are by donating this into the National Assembly, we are symbolically saying that this thing is doable.
In all sense, this is a very good innovation. I think that's something that we need to encourage, and we want to appeal that why would the National Assembly going to be the first people to use it here? That you need to also think who we're going to collaborate with them, National Assembly, to see what we can do, so that this can be replicated in other places across country.
Coming up, junta-led allies Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger to launch common passport in coming days. We have the details after the break. Welcome back. Our junta-led allies Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger on Thursday announced that their own common passport will come into effect from January 2025, that's on the 29th, the date of their departure from regional bloc ECOWAS. Now, after overthrowing civilian governments between 2020 and 2023, the military leaders in the three West African countries have teamed up to form the Confederation of Sahel States. On January 28 last year, the trio announced their withdrawal from the Economic Community of West African States, which they accused of being subservient to former colonial rulers, France, and failing to support them in their fight against jihadist violence. They said their departure was immediate, but under the bloc's rules, their withdrawal takes effect a year after the announcement. Now, Mozambique's opposition leader, Venancio Mondlane, has confirmed that he will not join the new government formed after months of violent unrest over disputed election results. Mondlane, who claimed to have won the October presidential elections that triggered weeks of protest, said while he is open to helping find solutions, he is not interested in being part of the government. The newly sworn-in President Daniel Chapo has pledged to unite the nation following post-election violence that has claimed over 300 lives. However, Mondlane continues to contest the official results, which declared Chapo's victory with 65% of the votes. Mondlane alleges he won 53% and has garnered significant support in his call for electoral justice.
Daniel Chapo ainda não tivemos nenhum contacto direto. Nunca tivemos nenhum contacto direto. Não tenho problemas em cooperar com o governo. Não integrar o governo, não quero. Eu já disse várias vezes que eu não quero fazer parte do executivo. Já na tomada de posse, as ideias cruciais, as mais fortes que o Daniel Chapo apresentou, são exatamente as ideias que vêm no meu manifesto, são as ideias que eu apresentei durante a campanha e são as ideias que eu venho defendendo nos últimos 2 anos, nos debates televisivos e noutros fóruns. E ele levou 90% dessas ideias e apresentou no programa.
South Africa joined the global celebration of the Chinese New Year in grand style as the Chinese embassy hosted a spectacular reception that brought together culture, diplomacy, and dialogue. The event not only marked the start of the year for the Year of the Snake, as they call it, but also underscored the strengthening ties between South Africa and China.
The Chinese embassy in South Africa hosted a reception in Pretoria to celebrate the Chinese New Year, marking the beginning of the Year of the Snake with a showcase of culture, artistry and diplomacy. The event, which featured performances and displays of Chinese art, served as more than just a cultural showcase. It reflected the deepening ties between China and South Africa.
the Chinese embassy and 3 consulate generals in South Africa will continue to uphold the principle of people-centered diplomacy, stay dedicated to providing better service for our compatriots and working to create better environment for you to live, work, and study in South Africa.
China is a big developing country and a great partner to South Africa, and therefore we anticipate that they're going to be playing a big role in terms of providing skills of how to go about the work that we're going to do, but most importantly, attracting more investments that are coming to South Africa in order to make sure that we can deliver to our people accordingly.
Guests, including South African government officials, shared their expectations for the growing relationship between South Africa and China, emphasizing shared goals of economic development and cultural exchange.
We are excited. I mean, being invited here is quite an experience, and we are excited about the relationships, and we are so looking forward. And to the Minister, as Stella Abraham's point, you know, the relationships are going to grow from strength to strength. And as South Africans, we are also learning a lot from the Chinese community. And I'm sure the Chinese are also interested to see what South Africa has in store for them.
What I like about it is that it's an ancient tradition for them to celebrate the Chinese New Year. Instead of looking at the Western calendar, they've kept their traditions. To us South Africans, in terms of our relationship with China, it's a big deal. I mean, speaking from the perspective of us as an organization, is that we are collaborating with the embassy.
As South Africa and China continue to build on their partnership, events like this serve as a reminder of the shared values and aspirations that unite them.
Still ahead, U.S. President Donald Trump threatens to withhold aid for wildfire-ravaged Los Angeles. Details after the break. Join us then. Welcome back. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump told world business leaders to manufacture in the United States or face tariffs. This comes in his first major speech to global leaders since returning to the White House this week. Trump said on Thursday, speaking remotely to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, in his speech, he added that he believed lower oil prices would help end war in Ukraine instantly. The U.S. president also said the world has witnessed the revolution of common sense in the last 72 hours since he took office. Now, moving on, President Donald Trump has threatened to withhold federal disaster aid for wildfire-stricken Los Angeles unless California leaders revise the state's water management policies. In an interview, Trump reiterated false claims that fish conservation efforts in Northern California are causing water shortages in urban areas. He blamed Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom, a political rival, for Los Angeles' difficulties in combating deadly wildfires. Newsom has called for partnership and mutual respect to address the crisis. The president's remarks come as he prepares for his first official trip of his second term. Now sports. Nigeria's longest-running sports tournament, the Molade Okoya Thomas Table Tennis Cup, is making history in its 56th edition by going national for the first time since its inception in 1968. Now, this year's edition is particularly special as it marks the 10th anniversary of the passing of its founder, Molade Okoya Thomas. The event will run from the 27th of January to the 1st of February, with over 300 players from 31 states competing in 13 events, featuring a range of categories including singles, doubles, mixed doubles, para, deaf, and veteran events. The tournament has a proud legacy of producing exceptional players like 9-time champion Bose Odusoya, defending men's champion Muiz Adegoke, and many others who have represented Nigeria on the international stage.
Because this is not my first time of playing national competition,
I've been attending so many national competitions, then I've been winning. I win some, then I lost in some. So when they say this Omolade Akoya Thomas is national competition, I've been working hard, I've been training hard so that I can win the tournament again. So that's it.
And that's all this hour. But before we go, let's take a look at some of the major stories we brought your way. Striking doctors have challenged the FCT Minister Wike and Senate President Akpabio to use local hospitals. And Nigeria Labour Congress has threatened nationwide telecoms boycott over 50% tariff hike. And we also told you that junta-led allies, Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger, are set to launch common passport in coming days. And that's it on the news. Do remember you can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.